So here's something. I met with clients recently, last week, who want to buy first and then sell their house, but they need the money from their house to buy the next house. But they're in a good spot because their mortgage is 100% paid off on their current house. So I was talking to them a little bit about a bridge loan. So let's talk about that and why that's really advantageous, especially in situations where people have their house already paid off.
Yeah. So the bridge loan is fabulous. We have a few lenders that offer the bridge loan. Basically, you're doing 2 loans at the same time. You're doing the loan on your new home that you're buying, and you're doing the loan for, it's basically a home equity line of credit. It's very similar that the bridge loan is. It's an adjustable rate that you have for a short period of time. So you're doing both of those at the same time. You know, the notary comes to your house to sign off on the bridge loan. You get those funds, however much it's deemed that you're able to get, and you bring those right to settlement. They go right to the settlement costs. So it's a way for you to use that equity at the same time without having to go through the separate home equity line of credit process, which with banks can take a while, can take 45 days, 60 days. So you're doing it simultaneously through one lender.
Now, what if they don't want to get a mortgage on their next house? What if they want to pay cash? Can they still use the bridge loan, like use that as cash to buy the next house?
No, they'd have to get the first mortgage and then the bridge loan. If they don't want to get a mortgage at all, I would probably recommend knowing that as early as possible and getting some type of a home equity line of credit so that you can pull from those funds and then just pay for the new house in cash.
Okay, so you would recommend a home equity line of credit over a bridge loan for people who want to buy a house first with cash if they're not getting a mortgage for their second home.
Correct.
Okay, that's good to know. And I'll go back to my clients and
then with the bridge loan, you may not even ever have to make a payment on that bridge loan because you're going to sell your house,
and
then you pay it off right before probably you're even going to make a payment on it. So it's a great thing for sure.
Okay. And then one of the things that you and I talked about that we've been seeing in the market is appraisal shortfalls recently. Let's talk about that a little bit.
Okay. So, you know, a lot of times buyers right now are covering an appraisal gap, right?
Yes.
So what does that mean? Can you explain what that means? I mean, I know what it means.
I know you do. So when people are buying a house and in a super competitive market like we're still in, there's been multiple offers and people are not only offering the seller what they're asking for the house, but they're offering over that. And then the seller is hoping that the offers will include what we call an appraisal gap, which is the difference between what the home appraises for and what you've offered on it. So let's say a house is $500,000 and you've offered $575,000, but the comps in the neighborhood really only bring it to $525,000. Well, the buyer might be saying, we are going to pay the difference between whatever the appraisal is at, you know, say it's $525,000 and what we've offered at $575,000. So we're going to bring that $50,000 in cash to the settlement table to make up the difference.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So what I do and where I kind of come in when that happens, like let's say the appraisal comes in low, I will provide new estimates for my buyer with options, right?
Okay.
Here's your option if you want to bring that full $50,000 to the table in cash, okay? Depending on how much money you're putting down on the home, you may not have to bring any more money to the table in cash. So for example, if you have 20% equity in the home or you're putting a 20% down payment and your house under appraises, we can change the loan to value. So when you're putting 20% down, your loan to value number is 80%. Right? So we can change your loan to value potentially to an 85% or an 87% or whatever that percentage needs to be so that you don't have to bring any more money to the table. Now, what's the downside of that? It's mortgage insurance. So, you know, especially if you have someone with pretty good credit though, if you're going from an 80 to an 85 or an 87, we're talking about maybe $60 a month in mortgage insurance to be able to not have to bring maybe another $50,000 in cash. So it's weighing those options. You know, is it worth it to me to pay another $60 a month, still move forward with this house and not have to come out of pocket with that 50 grand? which potentially you could save or use or put in an account that's going to make money for you as opposed to just throwing it into your mortgage.
Yeah.
So these are all the conversations.
And this is why it's so important to have a team around you when you're buying a house and getting started on this early, not jumping into it when you find the house you want. Because sometimes you and I might need to spend a little bit of time. Like I've looked at a house with a buyer. I know that there's probably an issue with the appraisal gap. It's probably not going to appraise for what they're offering. But to get the house, they have to be able to offer that. So you and I can get creative and talk about what the parameters are. And so the buyer doesn't have any surprises then. They really are informed buyers, and they know in the end how much they could potentially have to really stretch to get the house and what's feasible for them.
Yeah.
It's not black and white. There's a lot of gray in between.
Yeah, and I have definitely done estimates before someone even makes an offer on the house, if that's the concern. Okay, what if it underappraises by X amount? What if it underappraises by X amount? And I can show them that side by side and the different options with the loan to value, so that they go into that offer with confidence and knowing, okay, if this is worst case scenario, I'm prepared for that. I'm ready for that worst case scenario. And then they're pleasantly surprised, hopefully, if it's not that.
That's always best case scenario.